Just south of Seneca Lake, surrounded by the vineyards and rolling hills of New York's Finger Lakes region, sits one of the true cathedrals of American motorsports. Watkins Glen International is more than a racetrack. It's where road racing in North America found its heartbeat. Since 1948, the sport's best drivers has come here to test speed, precision, and nerve. From stock cars to sports cars, legends have been made on this challenging ribbon of asphalt carved into the hills of upstate New York. Today, the Glen remains one of motorsport's most versatile venues, hosting the NASCAR Cup Series, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, Craftsman Trucks, along with IMSA's 6-hour Endurance Classic, ARCA, SCCA, and SVRA competition. The modern 3.4-mile Grand Prix circuit blends history with intensity. It starts with turn 1, the 90, a heavy braking right-hander in a prime passing zone. Then it's flat out through the S's, down the back straightaway to the bus stop chicane before flowing through the carousel in the fast final corners back onto the front straightaway. From its origins on the village streets to hosting Formula One's United States Grand Prix and NASCAR's return in 1986, Watkins Glen has endured, evolved, and thrived, earning its place as one of racing's great stages. Tonight, that legacy continues. It's the ZeroX Strategy Series Track Limits at the Glen, and it's next on Track Limits. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the virtual Watkins Glen International Season 3 of the ZeroX Strategy Series, the Track Limits at the Glen. We'll take a look at the details tonight. 40 laps the distance, 65% fuel on board, 2 sets of tires available, no fast repairs, 3 attempts at a green-white checkered finish. Practice already in the books. Qualifying just getting underway. Let's see who's got things going. Tom Janikowski parked here in pit lane, has not rolled out as of yet. And there he goes. Janikowski into the bus stop again. This is just the out lap. This is where they kind of get a little bit of heat into the tires. You don't want to slip and slide too much. You don't want too much heat into the tire on this first lap, certainly. You may see a variance, drivers pushing on lap 1 versus lap 2. We'll see. Janikowski across the line. Green flag flies for his first lap. Janikowski up through the S's. You want to try and be flat out through here if you can. A lot of guys will just gently lift off throttle a little bit, maybe to offload the rear end of the car to keep it stepping out. You want it kind of in yaw up through those corners, otherwise you tend to push the nose at least through the left-hander up through the S's before the final corner, the right-hand turn 4, which spills you out onto the back straightaway. Raymond Hanneman lays down a minute 10:27. That is an impressive lap, especially on a fixed setup. Jim Treat now goes P1, even quicker, 109.96. Janikowski across the stripe, lock in lap number 1 for his timing effort. It looks like a minute 10:09. It does not register. I don't know if he had an off track there that may have negated it. Johnny DePasquale now. Now fastest Ken Lowry, P1, and not for long as Raymond Hanneman goes to the top, a minute 9:45. That was his second lap, I believe. That'll do it for Hanneman. Lowry second, DePasquale third on his first lap, but not for long as Sisler, his second lap puts him up to second, but just as quickly, Brandon Moore will knock him back down to P3. Real smooth off turn 10. We're going to call that turn 10, and this here turn 11. I know some of the broadcasts out there may call that the 6 and 7 section of the race course. DePasquale goes P2, minute 9:34. We'll talk more about that when we get into the race here, but we're going to call those last two corners 10 and 11. Darren Jones now on the speedway. Last lap, a minute 31. Definitely a problem there with the 217. We'll see if he can pick things up here. Now Jason Blaney goes P1. Minute 8:66. Lightning quick for the 22. Jones very gingerly through the bus stop there, just trying to lay down a consistent lap. Over to Scott Stockel as qualifying runs out. So that'll do it for qualifying here at the Glen. 5 minutes goes by in a hurry. Big race course. And I stand corrected. Our race distance tonight is 60 laps. Quite a distance here. That's 2/3 of a cup race. We'll get that squared away, but never mind that. Let's get into it. Our starting grid on the pole position with a blistering lap of 1 minute 8.668 seconds. It's the 22 of Jason Blaney, flanked by the number 1 of Johnny DePasquale. It's almost 7/10 off the pace. When you can lay down a lap for pole and you're almost 7/10 quicker than the guy to your right elbow, you have done something. Row 2, it's Ken Lowry in the number 35 with Raymond Hanneman in 4th. 5th starter will be Brandon Moore. 6 goes to Matt Sisler. 7th starter will be the ZeroX Sim Racing 367 of Jim Treat. Tom Janikowski will roll 8th. Blake Hochschild will start 9th. Jason Aranchak 10th. Austin Boyum will start in the 11th spot. Nathan Line will be 12th. 13th starter, it's Jackson West. 14th goes to Juan Linares. Chris Pieria in the number 13, 15th. Scott Stockel, 16th. 17th starter, it's Darren Jones. 18th goes to Mike Prachik. I think that's a new name here. We'll have to get that squared away. Austin Walton, 19th. And 20th shotgun on the field of 4 of Kerwin Marshall. Your starting grid here from Watkins Glen International. Tape-delayed broadcast from this past Tuesday. I didn't watch it. I just got home. We're going to see how things pan out. Hopefully you guys don't know either. I know some of you drivers that were in the race clearly know the outcomes, but we'll put this on here for you tonight. Call the action live, semi-live, Track Limits Network. Again, race details, 60 laps, 65% fuel, 2 tire sets, no fast repairs, 3 attempts at a green, white, checkered finish. With that said, that caveat with a GWC there, it's going to have to be something significant because I think they've got manual cautions only here at the Glen. They're not going to go with full course cautions unless absolutely necessary. With a 20-car field, everybody's going to have plenty of room out there. Derek Buckaloo. Steve said 6-7. Sure did. .45 miles, the distance around Watkins Glen International here today. 60 laps, you do the math, it's about 147 miles. So track limits at the Glen. Just about ready to get underway. Field rolling down through the short chute into what we call turn number 10, then the right-hander 11, and we'll get things racing here from the Glen. Pace car heads to pit lane. Barney with the green in hand. It waves, and we are underway here from Watkins Glen International. Ken Lowry, Johnny DePasquale on the front row. Lowry with the inside advantage down into turn number 1. Everybody fanning out on the exit of 1 as DePasquale takes the top spot. A terrible exit for Ken Lowry as they run up the S's. Battle for position. Jim Treat, Matt Sisler side by side. Sisler with the advantage on the bottom side. The 6 actually runs a little bit wide. I think that is Jim Treat. Different paint scheme. That'll happen sometimes with these delays as we got a car off. Big time impact back at the pack. This reminds me of a wreck, and it's Darren Jones. This happened right in front of my campsite years ago. It took out the Armco, but Darren Jones may actually be driving away from it. A monstrous hit out of the carousel for 217. Darren Jones. Juan Linares, I think Jackson West, Jason Blaney may have crashed as well. Now Austin Walton in pit lane. What a disastrous lap 1 for a handful of drivers. DePasquale actually looks good here still at the front of the field, so no harm, no foul for the 1. Jones, Walton, and Linares tied up in that one. Again, no caution thrown. Don't have to worry about debris in iRacing, at least not yet. Battle for the lead now. Oh, DePasquale loses it in turn number 10. He goes around, ends up in the kitty litter just a touch. Brandon Moore's going off course too. They make a little contact as DePasquale comes back on course. Hanneman, meanwhile, has taken over the race lead. So Hanneman in the number 85 out of Canada, not too far from this racetrack. And already the front brake rotors on the number 85, orange aglow. Getting down into turn 1, heavy braking zone. They go from wide open throttle down that main straightaway to a downhill heavy braking. It's very difficult, very tricky to really nail that sequence down into turn number 1. You've got to hit the braking marker just right, but then you don't want to power on the brakes too hard because then you run into that dreaded wheel hop type situation. And the only way to fix a wheel hop is to get off the brakes, sometimes maybe tap the gas. Some guys might play with the clutch a little bit. But either way, you're going to run wide of that corner if you don't spin it around. So Hanneman now with a 2.3 seconds advantage over second place now, Matt Sisler, who's up 4 positions in these first 3 laps. Hanneman off at turn 11. Hanneman real wide off of 1. I think this is actually fair territory nowadays. It's been a change, at least on the stock car side of things here at Watkins Glen. Anytime you've watched any of the races in real life here at the Glen, those guys are running very wide off the carousel and off of turn 1. A couple of years ago, NASCAR did jump in there and grind some big-time holes and divots, so to speak, in that runoff to try and slow the cars down. Didn't seem to have any effect, just kind of gives them a bit of a handful, but they can get away with it nice and easy. On the sports car side of things, that is an off track. You do it too many times, you're going to get in trouble. Now, back to this. Turn 10. You see it here. That's what we're calling it today. You watch the TV broadcast. They're probably going to call this turn 6 and then into turn number 7. Early days of the bus stop chicane. They installed that in 1992 after the tragic death of J.D. McDuffie during the butt at the Glen in 91. Subsequently, even a pretty significant wreck for Tommy Kendall in the IMSA race in that previous June. They wanted to slow those cars down. That back straightaway is technically an uphill section. You get right into the braking zone before you crest it, and there's not a ton of runoff. So they built that bus stop chicane, effectively adding a right-left, left-right combination. So that's 4 corners. So we're going to call it turns 10 and 11 at those backside. If they were running the long course, however, they don't count those corners in the bus stop either, and they'll still call turns 10 and 11 just that. Checking lap times here. Hanneman 1:09.629. Not the fastest lap. Sisler the quickest, 1:09.550. Hanneman still hanging on to a decent margin back to Sisler, 2.3 seconds. And we had Gamer 981. We're just going to call him Gamer 981. It says, anyone there? If it is, it is. Anywhere there is pavement, I know, track limits. Hunter Weldon says, can you try that again in English? I guess I need to know what specific part you need translated. Let me know. Hanneman and Sisler off the carousel, and there you see the runoff real wide. That used to be all grass until a couple of hairy wrecks in NASCAR where the guys got off in the grass, got into the Armco, and it shot them across the racetrack. Very reminiscent, actually, to Darren Jones's opening lap crash. I think Jeff Gordon and Jeff Burton were involved in that one among some others. Trying to give you some runoff there in case there is an issue where they got to run wide. They got some more space, but it does eventually narrow up. Brandon Moore from 5th spot running in 3rd, and Johnny D still in the top 5 in 4th now after his little mistake there off turn 10. But man, look at those brake rotors down into turn 1. Cherry red. Hanneman just now running 1:09.24. His fastest lap of the race, the fastest lap of the race. Let's go on board here with Raymond Hanneman and see how he gets around this place. All right, so let's walk everybody through the lap. We did about 5/8 of it at least there with Hanneman, but wide open throttle, You're going to look for the brake marker. That's usually going to be the yellow light there to the left on the catch fence. Try to hit the center apex there. Gently get back on throttle. And then you're going to be as wide open as you can all the way through here. Pitch the car down to the bottom. Get the rear of the car to step out. He didn't really get the apex there. You want to set yourself up best here for this left-hander. Just barely kissing the wall there on exit of 3. And then wide open all the way down the backstretch. Grabbing 5th gear. 175, 180 miles an hour. Hard braking. Sometimes 2nd gear depending on your driving style. Try to clip these curbs. Bouncing over them. Kind of pitch the back end of the car around. And then just kind of roll center till you get to about here. You're going to get back on the throttle. Some guys will run it all the way out past that curbing. Hanneman keeps it on the traditional racing line. Now, just past the bridge here where the jutting out goes back in. Get on the brakes, slow her down, and turn in. And again, gently on throttle. It likes to step out here. Don't shift. Brake down into 11. Now he grabs a gear, 2nd gear. That's preference. And then hammer down. That's why I don't like 2nd gear in 11, because it likes to step out. But that's a lap around Watkins Glen. Matt Sisler still back in the 2nd spot, but losing ground now. Hanneman getting smaller up ahead. A little tighter battle through the field here, just inside the top 10. Nathan Line running 9th, trying to hunt down Tom Janikowski. Jason Aranchak there in 10th. Big wiggle out of Jason Blaney there off turn 11 as well. Marshall now off turn number 1. Kerwin Marshall in the chat says 60 laps around this place is brutal. I would have to agree, and I love this place. Most of the leagues that I cover, they'll run at most 50 laps. The norm is usually about 40 or 45. But I guess with the Cup car, let's make it a real challenge here. Not just learn how to drive the road courses, but be able to do it consistently lap after lap for 60 laps here at the Glen. Jim Treat working up a couple of spots. Treat now into the top 5. Again, you'll see Jim in this Camry. He's usually got the 3, 6, 7 on board. Instead, he has the number 6. Back out front, Hanneman still hanging on to the top spot. 3 seconds the gap back to Matt Sisler. Last laps, though, very even between the two. Hanneman ran at 1:10.23. Sisler ran a minute 10:20, so extremely close laps between the top two. That's kind of a good thing for Hanneman. He's a little tiny bit slower, but at that rate, these guys will need to make pit stops before anybody's worried about catching the 85. Hanneman going to dispose of some lap traffic. It's the 13 of Chris P area. Chris gives him plenty of room, goes real wide. Got JWD26 reading my mind. I was just about to start asking those questions about what was the fuel run. about 20-ish laps was a full run on fuel. So keep an eye on that. We're 13 in here at the Glen, so we're approaching that. Guys might be starting to think. The question will be, is it fuel only, then tires the next time, or is it tires this time, then a fuel-only stop through the midsection of the race, and then bolt tires on late? There's options here. Or is it just a two-stopper? If it's 20-ish laps, then yeah, we're probably looking two stops, and we'll call it a night. So Gamer 981 says, I was saving fuel in the bus stop and the carousel. Bus stop's not a bad spot because you're so wide open down the backstretch. You just got to lift earlier and brake later. It can be tricky because you don't have a lot of room for air getting into the bus stop. Roll in the center through the carousel and just kind of being gentle on throttle. That can hurt your lap time, though, quite a bit because you've got that long straightaway after the fact. I always found the best opportunities for fuel save was into turn 10, a little bit into 11, and certainly down into turn number 1. The cool part about saving fuel into turn number 1 is if you really back that entry up, you can carry a lot of that extra momentum all the way up through the S's, at least on fresh tires and down the back straightaway. So you're saving a little bit of fuel, but you're also gaining a little bit of speed through a portion of the racetrack where you're flat out the majority of the time. JWD26, that's Johnny DePasquale in the chat. So you guys will notice if you're not one of the racers, you see these guys in the chat. Again, this is a tape-delayed broadcast, which is kind of fun because they can jump up here and kind of critique what's going on in the race that they already participated in. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do this all over again next week. I just got back from a week's vacation, and starting tomorrow, I'm going away for another week, but this time it's work-related, so we'll have to try and catch up again the following weekend for Tuesday night's upcoming race. Schedule-wise, there you have it. Darlington Raceway next on the schedule. That will be tape delayed to the following weekend. I'm targeting for Saturday afternoon for that to get that done. So just stay tuned for it. We'll get the link posted as soon as possible. If it isn't already, it might be. More lap traffic ahead for Raymond Hanneman. Kerwin Marshall going to be on the hit list here shortly. Now for Hanneman, he's going to want to catch him not in the braking zone. That would be ideal. Maybe Kerwin will just give him some space. Up through the S's. Hanneman will pull a little draft off the 4 as well. Should be able to get to him at this point right here. Gotta be careful though. Kerwin was predictable. He stayed put, but a close call there for Hanneman. Raymond does have a bit of a cushion though. 4.1 seconds back to Matt Sisler. Jason Aranchak will come to pit lane. This might be a premature stop for the 84. Maybe he just wants to bolt on some tires. Left side's in the air. That's the other caveat here. I know that we don't have to worry too much about how the guys pit the cars in iRacing, but it is a little unorthodox. They pit the driver's side first as we're running a clockwise circuit here at the Glen. Something relatively uncommon in NASCAR. Obviously, the ovals run counter. But in the real world, that really does shake things up for the pit crews. That's something they need to spend the week practicing because it's a big time change. The timing is different. The choreography is different. Last lap time for Ray Hanneman, minute 10:07. About 9/10 faster than Matt Sisler. A lot of times lately I've had a booth partner for some of these races. I was hoping to have somebody up here with me for this race, but was not meant to be. So I guess I'll put the question out to the chat. Anybody out there watching? Again, we continue to see the glowing brake rotors on the front of these race cars. I know typically, I'll start by saying I don't typically run this Gen 7 car. I'm just not a fan of it. But the Gen 6 car, with all its power, and that thing was a blast to drive, but always found myself starting out with a lot of rear brake. When the rear started to get hot, you gently start rolling those brakes forward, 0.5% at a time. It'll also help take some heat out of the tires, too. Don't know if they're doing the same thing here with these Gen 7 cars. If it's kind of the opposite. They've got a lot of front brake pushed into it. Do they start dialing it back to the rears, or does it make it too unstable on braking? Now Matt Sisler realizing he just cannot keep the pace on the tires that he has. He'll take it to pit lane. It's close enough, but he's going to have to stretch this run here to make it on the two-stopper. Kerwin Marshall in chat says, I was a fan of rear brake here, more comfortable for me. Track was very loose, too much rear brake. Wanted to spin on entry. That was from Johnny D. And again, that's very common. A lot of that, too, could really just boil down to what kind of brake package, what kind of brake pedal package you're working with. Do you have something that you can be very precise with, or are you working on a Logitech that's got a lot of give that doesn't necessarily translate to inputs? A lot of that stuff factors in here on the sim. But yes, you're absolutely right. You'll slow down a lot faster if you can do it in a straight line, but you do run a higher risk with that rear brake to A, being a little bit loose on entry, which a lot of guys actually sometimes prefer because it will help them turn the car. And a lot of drivers out there, a guy named David Bradford over in the PSRA, his whole mindset is let the car turn for you. The less you use the steering wheel, the better off you are. And that is one of the fast guys over there in that series. But then, of course, the dreaded wheel hop. That can be a concern, too, and that's real hard to recover from. If you can get away with it without spinning, you've done something. Gamer K981 says the Gen 7 more master cylinder, but yeah, I find it more unstable under braking. In turn on, turn in, turn one, either one. You have to bleed the brakes off or lock up, tends to happen. Tom Janikowski says, I adjusted masters and front brake bias just to be neutral and consistent. It's not a bad way to go, especially if you're not a real aggressive road racer. These guys typically just stick on ovals, which the majority of these guys that are running the stock car style cars, they're not on road courses very often. They don't necessarily have a knack for it. So they just want something that's got balance, it's predictable, nothing is surprising when you jump on the brakes. You just kind of stay on the racetrack, keep it out of the grass, and usually that's half the battle. If you can do that, you're typically going to have a solid top 10 at least. So Sisler, after his pit stop back in P6, Hanneman has still stayed out on the racetrack. In fact, the current top 5, Hanneman, Moore, Johnny DePasquale, Jim Treat, Ken Lowry, the pole sitter. Sorry, he was not the pole sitter officially, or was he? It's one of the replay glitches. It says he started third, but that might have had to do with maybe some EOLs being provided. But nonetheless, Lowry still running fifth. In fact, we can answer our own question here. Raymond Hanneman started fourth. Currently leads Ken Lowry. Technically started third. So there you have it. And Hanneman now will pull off turn 11 and come to pit lane. Now, Ray's got a good opportunity here. He has an 11-second advantage over the rest of the field, at minimum to second place. He can kind of do what he wants here. I know they might try to go fuel only, but in his case, he's not really going to be at a disadvantage if he goes to put 4 on. It's going to be a full tank of fuel anyway. You've got the time. You might as well just get it done and get it over with. And there you go. Left side tires being changed on the number 85 Ford Mustang of Raymond Hanneman. Crew around to the rights. So 4 tires. Sunoco race fuel for the race leader, Raymond Hanneman. He's down and away. 15.1 seconds. Not a blistering stop, but again, your pit entry is different. We talked about how that changes the dynamic of the pit crews themselves, pitting the car opposite of what they're used to. It's kind of the same ball game for the driver. Of course, the driver sits on the left-hand side of the race car, driver's left. I guess the best way to explain that for everybody. So your entry, your visuals, they all tend to be a little bit different. And the pit road at Watkins Glen, not the widest. That's right. Gamer RK981 says, officially Blaney got pole. And I think I knew that. I've been up since 3 a.m., fellas. I'm doing the best I can here. Meanwhile, Matt Sisler just threw down a heater, a minute 9:01. And Brandon Moore showing some issues here. I think he had a problem in the bus stop. Real slow through the carousel. Still shown back in P5 as the leader Ken Lowry now will pull off the racetrack and come to pit lane. Hanneman will retake the top spot. Scott Stockel also on pit road. Third place starter Ken Lowry comes to the attention of his crew. 23 laps on that tank of fuel. It's another benefit of not necessarily being the fastest guy out there, because you're going to burn less fuel. Stretches it, kind of ensures him that he can do this on 2 stops. 4 tires and fuel for Lowry. He is down in away 16:05, another slow stop. Quick stop though for Matt Sisler, and that kind of goes back to things that we've talked about with the 31 in the past. He's had a successful season on ovals, but he's been known to be pretty successful on the road courses. Obviously had a solid start here in 6th position tonight. Was up into the top 3 and then in 2nd relatively quickly. Those sight lines into pit lane, nothing new for the driver, the number 31. And you see the differential there between Sisler and Hanneman. It was 4+ seconds before Sisler made his stop. And I don't know if it's just a cycle through the pit stops or there's that much fall off. I don't think there was that much fall off in general, but it seems Sisler somehow found a way, but lap traffic going to get in the mix here. Mike Prachik, relatively new to the series, in the 12th position. The fly in the ointment between Ray Hanneman and Matt Sisler. Not a whole lot he really could have done there. That's a very narrow part of the racetrack up through the S's. If you've ever physically been on this racetrack, and iRacing's a pretty good indicator of it, but it seems so much narrower in real life. Very little room for error. Too wide is almost impossible. Nathan Line now going to mix up here. Hanneman still with the lead. Sisler will go to the bottom on the 38. Nathan's trying to give room. Sisler almost spins it around. Great save for the 31. He got on the power. It started to come around on him, and he was smart enough just to stand on the brakes real quick and straighten that car out. It's going to cost him about 3 seconds of track position, but he almost ended his day because he was headed for the abutment of that pit wall. Di Pasquale now in 3rd. Handful of laps shy of halfway already here at the Glen. These guys are getting it done in a hurry. Meanwhile, if you're not watching two screens at the same time, update from COTA. We're in stage 2, 31 laps in. Tyler Reddick, your leader. Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Daniel Suarez, Kyle Larson, the top 5. Some other notables, SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen up to the 8th spot. AJ Allmendinger 10th. Reddick trying to make it 3 in a row for the first time in the history of the top level of the sport. But looking at things right now, the top 2 are really the only within viewing distance of each other. Hanneman with almost 4 seconds up on Matt Sisler. Di Pasquale's back a total of 15 seconds off the race lead. Hanneman having a dominating run here today, about to lock up the most laps led. It's not going to take a whole lot more, maybe 3 or 4 more laps, and he'll have it. Tom Janikowski in the chat says, never saw much difference with new tires. I never changed tires. 60 laps with 1 set and carrying over 2 extra sets from Darlington, or for Darlington. Kerwin Marshall goes, no way. Well, I would actually tend to agree with him. I'm not the fastest guy out there by any means, but typically, at least with this Gen 7 car at the Glen, yeah, you'll lose a little bit of lap time, but I've seen plenty of guys put their fastest lap of the race down on 30 or 40 lap old tires. It can be done. And a lot of that, too, you get on light fuel, that changes the characteristics of the car as well. But these tires seem to be pretty durable as Hanneman's loose off of turn 1, and Ranchak goes around ahead of him. Hanneman gathers it back up, but locked him up pretty good. That's going to hurt those tires. Maintains the race lead, but man, throws away a bunch of track position, kind of almost to give it back to Matt Sisler, but Sisler locked his up off turn 11. Hanneman did it on the exit of turn 1. Still carrying a 2.4 second advantage as Blaney now off the racetrack through the grass. Marcus Ambrose, Brad Keselowski style, except less contact. So Hanneman trying to catch his breath, maybe trying to get some heat out of those tires after that slide and lockup into turn 2. It's definitely giving Matt Sisler another rabbit to chase here, coming to the 30th lap of this race. Sisler now in the wake. Jason Blaney will move to the inside. Really shallow entry for Sisler as Blaney kept about a car's width to his left side before turning, but gives plenty of space on exit as they roll down into the bottom of the S's, up 2, now the left-hander 3. As you can see it in the timing tower, we've only got 6 cars still on the lead lap. We said it earlier. It's nothing to be ashamed of. This is a league that is predominantly run on ovals. There's usually only a handful of guys that can really get around these road courses, especially on cars that frankly just aren't made to do it. Yes, this Gen 7 car is a little more adapted to a road racing car as it's built equally from left to right. But it's still plenty heavy. It does have bigger brakes, but still not big enough. So 30 laps to go here from the Glen. We are just past halfway. Raymond Hanneman will continue to lead over Matt Sisler, Johnny DePasquale, Brandon Moore, Jim Treat, and the last car on the lead lap is the 91 of Blake Hochschild. We're going to step aside, get our track limits side-by-side break out of the way. Stay with us. We'll be back after this.
Spartan Transportation and Spartan Logistic Management is your one source for all your shipping needs. 53-foot dry van shipments, auto transport shipments, full-service in-house brokerage, drop-lot facilities, just-in-time deliveries to all auto manufacturers, facilities in St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and Indianapolis, Indiana. Spartan Logistics, LLC, proud sponsor of the IROC Series, Kyle Steffens UMP Modified and Silver Crown Driver, and Gordy Gundaker, World of Outlaws late model. Visit us at spartan-logistics.net or find us on Facebook.
Need insurance coverage that's built for speed? Frank Yea's office in South Charleston has your back. Whether you're blazing down the highway, protecting the home you've built, or setting up a legacy for your family, we've got the coverage you need. Auto, home, life, fast, simple, and made for you. Scan the QR code on your screen now to explore all our services and start a free quote today. Lock it in, save it for later, or call us at 304-744-7700 to get started.
back at the Glen. 27 laps to go. Hanneman continues to dominate. So watch this battle with Janikowski. Janikowski running in the 8th spot. Prachek in 9th. He's not on the lead lap here, but this is a position for these two. Prachek takes a peek to the inside into the bus stop. Tried to outbrake the 93, unable to do it. Aranchak there sits in 10th. That's a position as well. Meanwhile, Di Pasquale back up into the 3rd spot after his issue early on in the race in turn number 10. Brandon Moore 4th. Jim Treat runs 5th. Hochschild in the 6th position. Almost going to be a lap down here. There's Raymond Hanneman and just ahead. It's Blake Hochschild up through the S's. Darren Jones in the stream chat. Hello, gentlemen. Hello, Darren. Lock up for Aranchak into turn 1. We got a gaggle of cars, and Brandon Moore's in the mix as well. Moore, the 4th place machine, so he's going to try and make short work of lap traffic. He's got 2 of them taken care of, but he's in behind Aranchak up through the S's. Aranchak yields to the 3, gives him space. Now 50 of Prachek. Again, these are positions. We talked about it. Janikowski lost a couple out of that exchange. Janikowski now back to P10. Now Prachek trying to take care of Aranchak here. Prachek seems to have a little talent around this place. Not setting the world on fire by any means, but he's running the proper lines. He's taking a peek in the places that you need to do that. So Aranchak runs really wide off of turn 10, which really kind of alters your entry into the last corner, turn 11, which will kind of throw away your straightaway as well. You're behind that driver that makes a mistake like that. If you're close enough to pounce, it can really set you up with an opportunity down into turn number 1. Prachek, though, not close enough to do it. Go on board with the 50 here. I want to see how he's getting around this place in traffic. Not a great qualifying effort for Prachek, but he's up to the 9th spot after starting 18th. Blaney gets the left sides in the grass a bit, now locks him up at the apex of turn 1, will go real wide. Hanneman continues to maintain a healthy margin back to Matt Sisler. It's almost 5 seconds now with 23 to go. Last pit stop approaching for these drivers. They may just be in that window. I'd imagine they're going to probably try to go at least a few more laps before they opt to come to pit lane, unless they're super confident they can go more than 23 laps on a full tank. Still off the race course, Ken Lowry, Jackson West, Aaron Jones. They've been in the pit lane for 10 minutes plus for all three. Still as they run, Matt Sisler with the fastest lap of the race, 109.01 to the race leaders of 109.23. Last lap, however, for Hanneman, a minute 10:38 to Sisler's a minute 10:73. Sisler did pit about 3 laps sooner than Hanneman's. His tires aging just a bit more as Jason Blaney now comes to pit lane. Blaney's car is starting to look like he just ran 500 laps at Martinsville. Now again, Blaney was pole position here tonight, so he'll be in that number 1 pit stall. But it shows you got to be more than just quick in one lap. It's the old line from Days of Thunder. You run good, go get your own car, and we'll see how you do in a crowd. On an oval, Blaney does just fine in that respect, but at the Glen here, not having the afternoon he certainly anticipated having. Blaney down and away, 14.8, not a bad stop as Sisler from the second spot will come down and pit. Sisler with 3 wins on the season, going to change left side tires. Will it just be left sides? Nope, going for Jim Treat now off the course. We'll head down into pit lane. "21 laps to go here from the Glen. Hanneman out in front by 20 plus. Back to Johnny D. Pasquale, and Hanneman will need to make a pit stop soon. Johnny D. as well. Raymond Hanneman up through the S's. Sisler comes out, 4th position. He is 43 seconds back from the leader, but he's done making his pit stops. So we'll see if he can gain enough time out there to put it back to the back bumper of Hanneman. And there it is. Hanneman's going to take it to pit lane for his final stop, coming to 19 laps to go. Now this very well should give Di Pasquale the lead, but no, Johnny's going to come down and pit with the 85 here, so Brandon Moore has potential. Here comes the 3. He'll cross the line. Still in second, but he'll take over the top spot down into turn 1 as Hanneman is into his pit box. Left side tires going on the 85. He's really hoping somebody would go with 2 tires only, even if it was just for grins, but Hanneman's going to bolt on 4 fresh ones to head back out. 14:45, a brilliant stop for the 85 of Hanneman. Aaron Jones in the chat says, "Hey Steve, hope you had a great vacation." I did, and thank you. We're down at Clearwater Beach. A couple days on the beach, a couple days just hanging out in Clearwater proper. And then we had a day down in St. Pete for the truck race and a little bit of IndyCar qualifying. It was a good time. So Brandon Moore, the new race leader, he stretched the fuel a little bit. He went 21 laps on his first attempt. It's 20 on this. Will he stay out? Looks like he is going to stay out, so he'll pick up a lap lead here. Looks like at least the top 10 drivers, 22 laps was the furthest anybody went on a tank of fuel. So I want to take a look here. Matt Sisler was able to leapfrog over Hanneman through that cycle of stops. So Sisler runs in second with a 3-second margin back to Hanneman. Brandon Moore will need to make a pit stop here still. So Sisler would inherit the race lead, but can he hold off Hanneman once Raymond gets there, or if he gets there? Sisler has shown the ability to match the lap times with the number 85. That could make it awful difficult for the 85 to make the pass on Sisler if he does catch him. Really need to set a guy up in the perfect opportunity to make the pass and get it completed. Hanneman's not typically the type of driver we see rough somebody up for a spot. We'll see. Janikowski in the chat says, I didn't have the option for a left front and a right rear tire. Well, it wouldn't make sense to do that, Tom. You got to put both sides of the car up on the jacks. You got 2 tire changers on either side. You might as well. As Sisler runs it through the grass on exit of the bus stop, I don't know if he's going to get a slowdown for that. Still on the gas off the carousel as Hanneman's now shaved 7/10 into the advantage. A lot of that likely due to the mistake out of Matt Sisler as he takes the spot from Stockel. Real shallow entry into turn 10 and real loose on the exit. Sisler's just got to take a deep breath here and run his race. Coming to 16 laps to go. Sisler got a lot of the curb on entry. Seems to have gotten away with it, man. He is bouncing that car all over those curbs. A lot of those curbs have been reprofiled in the last year or so. Largely due to the mouth guard monitoring systems a lot of the Cup drivers were wearing. Just hitting those curbs, the landing that you have was registering a little bit too high as far as the potential for head injuries. NASCAR went in and changed that. Sisler leading Hanneman by 1.9 now to 2 seconds. Sisler's going to run into some lap traffic here yet again, and it may be right about the bus stop. I think that's Jim Treat just ahead. As Hanneman runs the fastest lap of the race, 1:08.9, faster than they ran in qualifying. Pretty clean through the S's. Treat gives plenty of space for Matt to go to the bottom of the racetrack. Advantage 2.1 for Sisler. Lots of racing to go. Matt's got to be mistake-free here if he wants to keep the 85 in the rearview mirror. Oh, he doesn't make a mistake? He does make a mistake. Real wide off turn number 1. I don't know if that was planned or not. That seemed awful wide of an exit for Matt Sisler off turn number 1, and it really hurt him. He lost 3 or 4 tenths of a second to Hanneman in doing so. I know you want to keep as much momentum as you can through there, but that's making that lap a lot longer than it needs to be. Blake Hochschild around off turn number 1. No drive away from the scene. Blake had a decent run going. Beautiful set of corners for Sisler as he gets out of the carousel and puts the deficit back to 2 seconds to Hanneman. I think Hanneman may have got caught out behind Treat there. Their car's slow. I think it's Nathan Line just ahead. Could be problematic for the 31 here. We'll see if he reels him in a little too fast. Goes to the inside. May have been better off. Locks up the right front. Does Sisler. Runs wide again. But Hanneman kind of takes the same line. Deficit to 1.4 now. We say it so often in this sport. Don't beat yourself. Sisler's got to be careful here. Back to 2 seconds. The third sector really for Matt Sisler is the best part of the lap for him. Saw Hanneman had it to 1.3, 1.4 up through the S's down the backstretch. A little wiggle there into 11 for the 85. Sisler starting to pull away again, 2.2. Watch those numbers on the timing tower, 2.2 seconds. I think Sisler's going to back up the entry. No, he runs a little wide again, but pretty consistent to the last time. Right up against that safer barrier on exit. And Hanneman goes around off turn 1. Jim Treat collects him. Contact, a big wreck off turn 1. Late in this race with 12 to go. Treat trying to get out of the way. Hanneman just kind of roadblocked for a minute in right front damage on the nose of the 85. This race has gone away for Raymond Hanneman. He just lost it down into turn 1, and unfortunately another driver collected him, and that won't turn. He's got some suspension damage to the right front of the eternal number 85. So now the question remains, does Matt Sisler back down his pace? The last lap for Matt was 1:10:08, not too shabby. But Johnny DePasquale now starting to pick up his pace. He's 1:09:07, but boy, does he have some work to do. It's Brandon Moore and him are fighting it out for that position. Johnny D may have made a mistake there in the bus stop. We didn't see what happened there. He seemed to be in second a moment ago, but Moore has gotten by and put about a second, almost 2, on Johnny DePasquale. That said, Sisler now with almost 29 seconds out in front as he rolls his way up through the S's now with 11 to go. Hanneman now shown 1 lap down. Sorry, not 1 lap down. That's Hochschild in 5th, but he'll come to pit lane and likely will be laps down after this. Yeah, right front, towed in hard. Definitely broke something in that right front suspension for the 85. Never mind the body damage. Major heartbreak for Raymond Hanneman. Sisler, 28.4 seconds back to Brandon Moore. You got to think he's going to start backing it down, and he has a little. Minute 10.5. Moore ran a minute 9.79. Shadows getting long here at the Glen. No lights on this course. We got plenty of sunlight to finish this one out. Less than 10 to go for Matt Sisler if he can hang on. Tough part is here, you got this kind of a lead. The natural tendency is to say, all right, I can take it easy. I can back off a little bit. But in many cases, a lot of drivers, that's when they start to make mistakes. You've been running one way the whole race, and you're doing that because you had a guy running you down. You had Hanneman. He was fast, and you know Raymond was pushing as well. He lost it there in turn one, potentially wheel hopped the car. Kerwin Marshall says, my motto was to stay on track and pass people who wreck out. It's a great, honestly, if you're not a hardcore road racer, it's not a bad strategy. Like I said it earlier on in the broadcast, you can keep it out of the grass all race long. You're likely going to have a solid finish. And case in point, Kerwin Marshall, yeah, he's 2 laps down, but he's running 9th. Brandon Moore still in second, still carrying a 3-second advantage back to Johnny DePasquale. Three cars now still on the lead lap. And some of those drivers you would not expect to be off the lead lap. Hanneman, Treat, Blaney, Lowry. Those are all guys you usually see fighting for a win. Even on these road courses, they had a strong qualifying efforts, a decent run going, but for one reason or the next, unable to put the full race together. It looks like Matt Sisler's trying to do just that. Man, he's really wheeling that car through the bus stop. Looked like he was about to go around. Sisler really eyeballing win number 4 on the season. 5 if we're going to count the All-Star race. Seven to go for Matt Sisler. Blake Hochschild still in the 4th position. Started 9th today. Unchallenged for the time being. Give a call to Mike Prachik, though. Started back in the 18th spot. Looking at a top 5 if he can hang on to it. He's got Jason Aranchak still breathing down his neck. These two have been at it most of this race. Tom Janikowski back in P7. Just wanted to have good balance underneath him in that number 93, and that seemed to be paying off for him. Up 1 spot, running ahead of Nathan Line, but Line, that's a position too. If Nathan can get around him, he'd love to do so. Line might make a move here down into 1. Sets him up. Outbreaks him down into turn 1, and Nathan Line will take the 7th spot from Janikowski. Kerwin Marshall running in 9th. Man, he started last, so anything forward of that is a positive as he locks up the left front, goes a little wide out of turn 1. Keeps it out of the barrier. Then Scott Stockel in 10th. 3 laps down, but still out on the racetrack, and the car looks pretty clean. Another example of just take care of the race car and you'll have a solid day. Oh, real loose off of 1. Solid day might be going out the window. Does he get the wall? Just a glancing blow to the tire pack to the inside of the exit at turn 1. Stockel will grab a gear and get back out. I don't think he's got to worry too much about 11th, as Raymond Hanneman's the next driver to be concerned with. And from 11th down to 20th, they are all in pit lane or out of this race. So still only 10 cars remain on the racetrack. Nathan Line will run up the back here, but he's a lap ahead of him already. Going to put a little bit of a cushion between himself and Tom Janikowski. Best laps for these drivers so far. Sisler's has been a minute 9:0:11. Brandon Moore in second, 109.334. Di Pasquale, 109.78. Very impressive lap times. But the fastest of them all, unfortunately, won't have much to show for it finish-wise. The 85 of Raymond Hanneman, a minute 8:97. Blistering pace. Just one small mistake in turn 1. Ended his day. Looks like he will eventually finish out in the 11th spot. Coming to 3 to go for Matt Sisler, still enjoying a healthy margin, 27 seconds. And as we talked about, backing down the pace or not, Sisler staying on the gas. Got Sandra Nielsen jumping in the chat. I was wondering if we're going to hear from her. She says, I like this track. So do I. We'll be there Mother's Day weekend this year. It's going to be cold, muddy, and you never know, might even be snowing, but we're still going to show up. Lap time is pretty even now for Sisler and Brandon Moore. Moore is a tick faster, but less than a tenth. Less than 3 laps to go. Coming to 2 to go with a 27-second deficit to make up. If something significant happens to the 31, this race will end up going to Matt Sisler. He's got to make 2 more laps cleanly. Out of mistakes. He's not running the car wide anymore. Still got to be careful on that exit curbing, though. If you get the thing to bottom out a little bit, it can get a little tricky. Kerwin Marshall in the chat says, great broadcast, Steve. Going to go watch Coda. Thanks for checking in, Kerwin. I appreciate it. 45 laps to go at Coda. They just went back to a restart. Tyler Reddick continues to lead. Ryan Blaney, SVG, Michael McDowell, William Byron. That's the top 5 as they run down into turn number 1. Meanwhile, here at the Glen, Matt Sisler off turn 11 looking for the white flag. There it waves. Final lap for the 31. One more clean lap. Sisler's going to have it. Good thing, too, because, man, it's getting dark. The brake rotors are lighting up the track now. Brandon Moore off turn 11. He'll see the white flag this time. Johnny DePasquale about 4.5 seconds back from him. Matt Sisler with a massive, massive lead. Sisler started in the 6th position here this afternoon. It's probably a second-place car, but you've got to run all the laps. Can't take the hats to victory lane before the checkered flag waves. Raymond Hanneman with a problem off turn number 1 late in this race. Was collected by the 367 of Jim Treat. Opportunity given here to Matt Sisler after a little bit of pit strategy as well. Matt Sisler through turn 11 for the final time. He'll get back to the main straightaway, hammer the throttle down. He'll cross the line first and pick up the win here at the track limits at the Glen. Brandon Moore will come home in the 2nd spot. Johnny DePasquale will finish in P3. Johnny led 1 lap here today. Brandon Moore, he led 1 lap today as well. Those points do add up. But leading 17 of 60 here this afternoon. Matt Sisler picks up another win on the season. Nathan Lyon offering his congratulations to the 31. I think Sisler's running out of gas. Cut it close. Sisler's last pit stop was at lap 39. And just enough to go an extra cool down lap and a little bit of a burnout. I think that might have been why he did those burnouts down in turn number 1 before the cool down lap was even over. Tom Janikowski says the race seems so much longer driving it. It's an hour and 18 minutes to this point. That was pretty quick for 60 laps at the Glen. Of course, no cautions, but a job well done by all. I know it's, again, not everybody's forte, but very impressive race. Four lead changes today. Matt Sisler victorious. So that's going to wrap it for us here at Watkins Glen International. Matt Sisler picking up the race win here. Not so much in dominant fashion. I'd say if you want to break it into stages, stage 3 for Sisler, very dominant. Was able to get out ahead of Raymond Hanneman there late on that final green flag stop. Put some distance between himself and the 85. Then Raymond really had to dig deep to try and run him down. Dug a little too deep into turn one. I'm not sure exactly what happened there with the 85, if he locked him up or wheel hopped into turn one. Got the car sideways. If he was all by himself, he probably would have been just fine, but unfortunately Jim Treat was there. They made contact. Pretty severe right front suspension damage on the 85. Ended the day for Raymond Hanneman. He'll settle for the 11th spot. So with that, we're going to get right into our race results. We already talked about Matt Sisler picking up the race win. Brandon Moore came home in second. Solid run for the 3. Johnny DePasquale started outside pole, finishes in the 3rd spot. Blake Hochschild was 4th. A strong run for the 91. Mike Prachik, we'll give him the Hard Charger Award tonight. Started almost dead last in 18th. He finishes 5th. Jason Aranchak was 6th. Nathan Lyon, a good run too, 7th spot. Tom Janikowski just wanted to get it home, keep it between the lines. He did just that with an 8th place finish. Kerwin Marshall, same story for him, finishes 9th. Scott Stockel was 10th. Dominant Raymond Hanneman finishes out in 11th. Disappointing for him, but still an impressive run early. Jim Treat was 12th. Chris Pieria finished in the 13th spot. Pole sitter Jason Blaney, a tough day, finishes 14th. Austin Boyum out of this one very early as well, 15th place. Ken Lowry was 16th. He was a front runner for a little while. Jackson West was 17th. Darren Jones, 18th. Austin Walton finished in the 19th spot, and Juan Linares rounds out the field 20th, 59 laps down after a first lap incident. That's going to do it for us here at Track Limits Network. Thank you guys all for tuning in here tonight. And thank you for being so patient, waiting from Tuesday to here on Sunday evening to get this race broadcasted. Again, I apologize. We're going to have to do it again next week. Darlington, guys are going to run it here on Tuesday. We're going to broadcast it, I think, Saturday afternoon. I'll be in D.C., Maryland for the majority of the week, back here late Friday night. I've got to go to the other job Friday night as well. But we'll get it done. Obviously, next season, it sounds like we're going to be back broadcasting for this series. That's going to be fun. But all of those races will actually be tape delayed. They didn't want to change their Tuesdays. I don't blame them. I offered them an alternative to do the tape delayed broadcast the following night. So most of these races will be tape delayed, but just one day to Wednesday. So make sure you stick it here. Keep watching us here at Track Limits Network. And I'm sure the next season's details will be coming out sooner than later from Dustin. We look forward to that. And thank you guys all for tuning in here tonight. Thank you again for your patience, and we'll see you at the next one, guys. Thanks for watching.